Hello everyone, welcome to the coverage for Red Bull Yellow overused in SPL 16, week 4, brought to you by yours truly, Marco SD. So in this week we have two players who are subbing in. LUISPEIKOU, from now on, amicably Luis and Shiloh. So the first game is Luis against Prince, the first series. So turn 1, players trade Thunderbolt with Starmie. Prince goes Executor, Luis goes Chansey, so Prince gets Freeze Leap Powder but misses. Starmie uses Thunder Wave and finally Executor connects. So good trade for now for Alexander, but it all depends on Luis's Chansey, if it's Sing or not. Prince lands Thunder Wave on Chansey, makes progress. And yes, Luis has Sing. Snorlax on Chansey, Paraslam on Cloyster. However, Luis gets the freeze on Snorlax. Then Snorlax against Alakazam. Alakazam is Paraslammed. Alakazam goes Psychic instead of Thunder Wave. And Alakazam is Paraslammed and Alexander is in trouble. So Chansey comes in, but now Chansey is in danger. Prince needs to predict Hyper Beam, goes Executor, nicely done, and Prince gets the critical hit with Executor on Snorlax. So Snorlax is forced out, Chansey, Alakazam comes in, Luis goes Tauros, uses Hyper Beam, critical hit on Frozen Snorlax, then another critical hit on Tauros, and Alexander's team is crippled and he cannot stop Tauros anymore. So this game came down to Alexander's team being frail, because when you have back Alakazam and Chansey, your team is weak to physical attacks. Luis got a freeze, and at very least this Chansey had to be reflect. Game 2, Starmies trade Thunderbolt again, but this time both players go Executor. Then both pull back. At that point Alexander uses Thunderbolt and Luis goes Executor. Alexander uses Blizzard, gets critical hit and freeze. Wow. So Alexander goes Executor, gets the sleep, and Stun Spore on Chansey. So one slept, one frozen, one paralyzed. Things are looking very good here for Prince. Executor pressures Chansey. Chansey Thunder Waves Executor, gets Soft Polyp off. Then Luis switches out to Starmie to get rid of special drops. Prince goes Snorlax and gets critical hit on Snorlax, on Luis's Snorlax. Then Prince goes Executor, which is paralyzed, and it looks like this is all he has as a special attacker. So maybe back Rhydon or back Zapdos, he doesn't want to reveal. Luis gets a critical hit on Executor and now has to use Rest. So Chansey comes in. Prince goes Snorlax, Body Slam into full paralysis. Turn 27, first knockout. Luis doesn't have much choice. Luis just goes Tauros. They trade Body Slam, and finally Tauros takes out Snorlax. Fresh Tauros against crippled Tauros. Luis gets the critical hit into a knockout, then critical hit on Rhydon. So Prince is in a bad spot here. He has lost both his physical attackers, and assuming the last one is Chansey, Prince has a problem with Luis's Chansey. So right now Luis is trying to sacrifice Starmie to get Chansey in play, and if Chansey does not fully paralyze, this game is almost over. it depends on Prince using explosion or Chansey, which is not going to happen. Turn 37, Luis allows Prince one turn of a window to explode on Chansey, then goes Rhydon. Alexander uses Psychic and gets the critical hit on Rhydon. However, Chansey is still a problem. Turn 45, Thunder Wave on Chansey. I don't think Luis needed that. This way is not fishing for a freeze anymore. Also, Chansey reveals Thunderbolt. Like, at this point, if Alexander can get a freeze on Snorlax, there's a risk that Luis can lose this game. Because right now Luis needs to let Snorlax wake up, which will not be hard. This way we're getting into a PP stall war. Alexander goes Executor on turn 79 on predicted soft-boiled, and he reveals Rest, so this is Explosionless Executor. Also it has just 2 PPs, Psychic, and this is going to be about Luis making progress with Snorlax. He's not going to risk Tauros, Chance is going to be stalled, Rhydon is low on HP. I don't think Luis wants to PP stall here, like, he's losing this war, so he needs to go Snorlax and attack. So turn 105, Executor against Snorlax. Executor doesn't even have enough PPs to take Snorlax out, unless it gets 2 critical hits in a row, obviously, but that's not going to happen. So Starmie is going to come in to stop Snorlax, but this Starmie is Blizzard Thunderbolt, so again, unlikely to knock out Snorlax. Luis can switch out, no big deal, like, this whole game depends on whether Prince can get the freeze on Snorlax or not, and Luis didn't need to Thunder Wave Chansey. So eventually Chansey is too low on PPs on Luis' side, and Snorlax has to fight Starmie. Gets the Paraslam. And later Rhydon comes in on Starmie. So Luis revenge kills with Tauros and Alexander forfeits. So RNG based series. Game 1, the freeze, and Alexander being weak to Snorlax, Alakazam not using Thunder Wave. Game 2, Luis's Tauros going crazy. But turn 27, Game 2, I don't know what I want to do if I am Alexander. Like, knowing Exeggutor is explosionless, maybe you want to sacrifice Exeggutor on turn 27 and Ghost Army, force Chansey to come in, go through Snorlax and make some progress with it, but that's complicated. I mean, Alexander made an entirely fine play by playing against Tauros. Luis's Chansey was low on HP. He just tried to win the game through healthy Tauros against crippled Tauros, like it was in Hyper Beam range. Luis didn't need to use Thunder Wave. He made things way more complicated than they should have been. However, good games. Luis stepped in, subbed in for his team, got a relevant win. Usually when substitutes come in, things get even worse. Not this time. Second series we have Felix against Sceptross, huge game. So it's Jinx against Starmie. Jinx gets crippled and finally lands Lovely Kiss. Chansey comes in, puts pressure. Sceptross uses rest. Everything ordinary here. Felix goes Exeggutor. Then on turn 6, a risky move. Felix goes Tauros, predicting Jinx. Like, if Chansey stays in and clicks Thunder Wave, that's bad, so risky play, it paid off. So 3 Body Slam on Starmie, critical hit, no paralysis. Felix stays in, Body Slams again, then pulls back. So Thunder Wave on Chansey. Sceptross has made some progress already. Felix uses Thunder Wave. And when Felix uses Thunder Wave on both Starmie and Snorlax, it becomes evident that he's going to save sleep for later. So Felix goes Snorlax on paralyzed Snorlax. Yeah, forces rest, Exeggutor comes in. So Exeggutor against paralyzed Starmie. No Mega Drain. Felix goes Chansey. Turn 19. Felix tries to predict Jinx, so goes Snorlax, but it doesn't work. Sceptross goes Chansey, then double switches to Snorlax, so Snorlax comes in as Felix goes Chansey, so Sceptross is going to let Snorlax wake up and Felix is going to try Thunder Wave. So these are turns where momentum shifts. Sceptross got a prediction right and is now going to get back his Snorlax. Turn 21, Felix goes Rhydon instead of trying Thunder Wave. Maybe he doesn't want to risk a full paralysis, but Rhydon, it doesn't look like a winning matchup. However, players trade Earthquake and Felix goes Exeggutor, so in the end this worked very well for Felix. Sceptross goes Jinx, then Starmie, as Tauros comes in. So it's Starmie against Chansey. Chansey has Thunderbolt, Snorlax comes in. Snorlax against Snorlax, both players use Reflect and Rest, so we reset. So this is going to be a bit boring, Snorlax against Snorlax, no Ice Beam. Turn 49, finally, Felix goes Exeggutor. Some switches, then Snorlax against Starmie. Thunder Wave. and Felix decides to explode on Starmie. And I agree with this move. Then Sceptross reveals Zapdos and Felix has 65% Rhydon. However, unstatus Chansey can switch into Rhydon and scare it out. So on one hand, Felix has a Rhydon that is going to stop Zapdos, but on the other hand, Sceptross has a Chansey that Felix is not going to be able to paralyze directly, so Felix needs to use Exeggutor to make progress. Exeggutor against Chansey, Sceptross goes Jinx again. Turn 64, finally Sleep Powder connects, Sceptross sacrifices Zapdos to sleep. Then some more switches, Chansey against Exeggutor. Turn 67 is interesting. If this Exeggutor has Stun Spore, Felix has the option to paralyze Chansey, but I don't think he wants to. Like, Rhydon cannot really switch into Chansey, especially if it's Ice Beam, but even Seismic Toss can take it down in 2 hits. Tauros, Felix does not want to expose it. Exeggutor needs to explode on Chansey, so it's a prediction and it's not easy. So maybe Felix can spam Ice Beam for a while with Chansey. Maybe he wants paralysis on Snorlax. And that happens on turn 69. Nice prediction by Felix, very well planned. Gets Thunder Wave on incoming Snorlax. So right now, not only he has advantage on material, he also has momentum. However, turn 70, great prediction by Sceptross, uses Earthquake on incoming Rhydon. Turn 71, I think Sceptross wants to go Chansey. Instead he goes for Snorlax against Rhydon. Snorlax is fully paralyzed and it goes down. Starmie wakes up. So Thunder Wave on Chansey, and from turn 76 we are going to see some PP stalling. Turn 94, Felix predicts Soft Boiled, goes Rhydon on 58% Chansey, decides to enter the end game. Uses Earthquake against Chansey, gets the critical hit, and from this point Sceptross only has Tauros. It's going to have to deal with Starmie, Chansey, Exeggutor, Tauros. So that's too much, Felix wins the game. Good game, well played by both players, really. Maybe Sceptross should have saved Snorlax, but this game mostly came down to Jinx being a non-factor, Jinx and Zapdos being 2 non-factors. Game 2, Jinx against Starmie again. This time Lovely Kiss connects immediately. So it's Chansey against Chansey. Players trade Thunder Wave. So once again Felix is not looking for the early steep. Goes Snorlax. Scouts counter. Sceptross uses Thunder Wave and goes Soft Boiled. Okay, finally Snorlax comes in. Felix reveals Cloyster. Sceptross gets the Paraslam, so goes Jinx. makes a double switch. Turn 15, Felix knows that, so instead of going Chansey, he goes Executor. Good play. So it's Snorlax against Executor, and Sceptross is in an uncomfortable position on turn 16, like Chansey and Jinx are weakened, like Felix has the option to go Snorlax, or maybe with some full paralysis, with some yellow magic, Executor can take them out, especially if it's Hyper Beam. So Felix has the option to use Sleep Powder on Snorlax. There are some mind games, so turn 16 is a very important turn. Players decide to go for Psychic and Body Slam respectively. Next turn, Sceptross goes Jinx. Felix uses Sleep Powder. So the very next turn I expect Chansey to come in on Sceptross' side, turn 18, like he can hope for a switch to Chansey. That doesn't happen. So Sceptross goes Chansey, but Felix uses Psychic. Very nice play. At this point, Sceptross is scared. He is scared of Hyper Beam, Double Edge, Explosion. I don't know, there are many dangerous options for Felix here. So Sceptross just goes Starmie. There are some switches around, then on turn 21 Sceptross is finally able to get Chansey on the field and use Soft Boiled. Felix goes Snorlax, Sceptross goes Snorlax as well, uses Rest, Cloyster comes in. Blizzard on Jinx doesn't do much. Turn 26, I think this is an over-prediction by Felix. This way Jinx is in Body Slam range, but he clearly wanted to hit something else. So Felix goes Chansey, Sceptross goes Snorlax, critical hit on Snorlax, so Felix goes Tauros. Sceptross sacrifices Jinx, First Blood. Turn 31, nice double switch by Sceptross, goes Starmie, then Snorlax on incoming Chansey. Snorlax Body Slam Cloyster. Rhydon comes in on turn 34, huge play by Sceptross. Wow, predicts Rest or Explosion, Felix goes for Explosion. Turn 35, Sceptross goes Starmie on Executor, Felix doesn't use Sleep Powder, predicting Chansey. Turn 36, they trade Blizzard for Sleep Powder. This is a trade that favors Felix. Then Tauros against Chansey, Felix is going to switch to Snorlax, and this was somewhat predictable. Like turn 38, if I am Sceptross, maybe I want to go Rhydon. Chansey stays in instead, so Sceptross is forced to go Starmie and then Snorlax. So Sceptross is Snorlax is at risk of being KO'd. Finally, it gets Rest off. Felix decides to sacrifice Starmie to Snorlax so that Executor can come in. Executor leaves the floor to Snorlax. So this kind of stalling between physical and special attacks goes on a bit. Executor gets a chance to break the game at turn 57. No full paralysis. When Sceptross tries to wake Snorlax up, Felix goes Tauros, uses Body Slam, gets a critical hit on turn 61. So Sceptross has to go Rhydon on Tauros. Rhydon gets one Earthquake on Tauros and also a critical hit Earthquake. So Tauros is in Body Slam range and Felix loses Tauros. So it looks like Sceptross is going to win this game unless Felix gets a freeze on Snorlax. So turn 71, Felix decides to waste no time. He starts spamming Ice Beam. He knows that that is mostly his only out for winning this game. And he gets the freeze on turn 73. However, Sceptross goes Rhydon, Chance is fully paralyzed. Some damage on Executor, double switch by Felix doesn't work. So Felix sacrifices Chansey. Turn 78, we still have a game. Like, Felix can still win the game with Reflect, Snorlax. What happens next is that this Snorlax, it doesn't look like it has Reflect. So Tauros finally gets the knockout. Good game, well played. Game 3, Starmie against Gengar. Sceptross goes Executor against Chansey, Sleep Powder misses, very unfortunate. Chansey uses Thunder Wave. And then Felix goes for the damage on Executor. Sceptross uses Sleep Powder, catches Chansey, which is bad news for Felix. Snorlax comes in, gets a Body Slam on Executor, very nice play by Sceptross. Gets the Paraslam, then gets a critical hit on Executor. However, Felix gets Sleep Powder on Snorlax. But this is a fine trade for Sceptross. Like, Felix has Sleeping Chansey, so Sceptross is fine with Sleeping Snorlax as long as he can counter Felix's Snorlax. Executor is very crippled. Felix goes Tauros, Sceptross goes Executor. So turn 10, Tauros comes in. Starmie is Paraslammed. Thunder Wave on Chansey. So from turn 13 it becomes clear that Felix's success is going to depend on Starmie. Snorlax comes in. Gets Thunder Waved. Turn 21, interesting decision by Sceptross. He decides to leave Chansey out against Snorlax. Like, maybe going Starmie is an okay option, but for the way he is playing, Sceptross has something in the back that can deal a lot of damage. So whether it's Zapdos or Rhydon, that's anyone's guess, but it definitely looks like Sceptross doesn't care about saving Chansey. However, Snorlax cannot finish Chansey, at least for now. So finally Starmie comes in on turn 25. So there are some switches. Turn 30, Executor is going to counter Starmie. Mega Drain is revealed. So Felix clearly has a problem with Executor. Turn 34, first knockout. Tauros Dido happens. Meanwhile, Felix's Chansey is close to waking up, but Sceptross has more material, and I think Gengar's moveset is going to be relevant from this point. If it's Thunderbolt, it can be dangerous. Turn 37, both players want to avoid the speed tie. So finally it's Rhydon against Tauros. This looks like a very doable role for Rhydon. Sceptross pulls back, goes Starmie, double switch to Executor, very nice. Mega Drain again, Executor heals. So there are mind games, switches, but sooner or later something is going to happen, and Sceptross has the advantage. Like Felix is trying to wake up, it doesn't happen, so Chansey goes down for good, turn 52. Then Sceptross sacrifices Chansey, goes Starmie, that's Executor. So right now it's up to Felix to find an answer for Executor. Jengar comes in into Mega Drain. Like turn 56, if Sceptross uses Psychic, this game is almost over. And I think this is how this game is going to end. Like Executor takes out Jengar. Also Jengar pulls back. And this is not going to work well for Felix. Psychic on Jengar. Felix uses Explosion.
And he missed it!
Sceptross predicts by going Rhydon, and anyway, Jengar misses. So from turn 62, Sceptross' plan is going to be win this game through Rhydon. He wants to use Rhydon to beat Starmie. Felix double switches again. He's making good moves, but the point is, he needs to win so many mind games at this point. So turn 70, he puts Tauros in front of Executor again. Executor is in Hyper Beam range, but at this point it's tricky, he needs to guess the right move. He wants to use Hyper Beam against Executor, Blizzard against Rhydon, Body Slam against Starmie. It's just too complicated. So Sceptross stays in, Felix uses Body Slam, and Sceptross is fully paralyzed. Like if Sceptross moves, Psychic on Tauros, game over. Executor goes down, but right now Rhydon is going to get to work. Rhydon uses Substitute, Starmie is fully paralyzed. Starmie goes down, critical hit. Tauros against Rhydon, Tauros leaves. Blizzard, no crit, no freeze. Rhydon is going to win this game. Good games, very well played by both players. This goes to show you that Sceptross belongs in the conversation, and Felix falls down to 1-3. It happens. You're going to have ups and downs. Felix has nothing to prove, so let's give Sceptross some credit. Then it's Chuva against Kaz. Alakazam Ditto, Kaz goes Jinx. Lovely Kiss. Blizzard. Critical hit and freeze. So Jinx gets lucky early. Snorlax comes in, Kaz goes Cloyster, no Paraslam. Blizzard misses. So Chuva is making progress on Cloyster, critical hit Clamp. Chuva stays in. Alakazam switches in on Blizzard. Yeah, Zapdos comes in. Thunder Wave on Chansey. And Chansey is at risk, like a critical hit is a guaranteed KO. So maybe a switch out here was possible, but it looks like Kaz understood that Chansey is not going to be very useful against Chuva's remaining Pokemon. One is Tauros, the other one we don't know, but it doesn't look like it's Chansey. Chansey gets a critical hit Ice Beam on Zapdos. Zapdos is fully paralyzed, and all of a sudden Zapdos is on the losing end of this matchup. Kaz goes Snorlax on Drill Peck, Body Slams Executor. So turn 24 it looks like Kaz is miles ahead. Obviously, he got a freeze with Jinx. No sleep for Chuva. Zapdos flopped against Chansey. Nothing worked for Chuva early in this game, very unlucky. Cloyster comes in and it's a problem. However, Blizzard misses. Turn 31. Nice play by Chuva, predicts explosion, so he sacrifices Zapdos. And Chuva made this play so that he did not risk missing Hyper Beam. Very technical play. Or maybe a prediction, like a switch out to something. But I don't think that Kaz can risk a switch to Alakazam or Chansey. So Chansey against Exeggutor. Chuva makes a double switch, resulting in Tauros Ditto. Very nice play. Like if Chuva can remove Kaz's Tauros, Kaz decides to sacrifice Jinx. Alakazam cheaps Exeggutor. Then Kaz goes Chansey on turn 39. Special drop. And on turn 44, a huge rest by Chuva. This was very big. So right now Kaz is in a rough spot all of a sudden. Chansey has 3 special drops. Alakazam is at risk of being sleep powdered. Tauros, Psychic is a roll. So turn 50, Kaz goes Tauros. Chuva sacrifices Alakazam. He wants to save Exeggutor. So Chuva needs to save Exeggutor because that's how he can beat Alakazam. So turn 52, Chuva makes a switch to Exeggutor. And this is a very respectable move. He predicted Kaz to go Alakazam. Kaz stays in instead, uses Hyper Beam, gets the knockout on Exeggutor, so Alakazam is going to win this game for Kaz. Wanna tie? Come on man, that's not going to happen. So good game, well played by both. Chuva made a huge comeback with Rest Exeggutor, especially after the early Jinx freeze and the bad performance by Zapdos against Chansey. So a very impressive game by Chuva actually. Really. Let's go to game 2. Alakazam against Gengar. Kaz goes Exeggutor, Chuva goes Gengar of his own. Gets Hypnosis off. Alakazam against Snorlax. So Chuva wants to switch Snorlax against Snorlax. Kaz uses Reflect, Chuva goes Exeggutor. Predicting Earthquake correctly, so Chuva gets Stun Spore off. Sleep Powder by Kaz misses. Chuva predicts Psychic, goes Alakazam. Seismic Toss, full paralysis. Then Gengar into Sleep Powder, but Sleep Powder misses. However, notice how every play by Chuva is on point every single turn. That's very impressive. Turn 13, Exeggutor sleeps Alakazam, but it's very crippled. So Chuva has the lead. Gengar will switch into Blizzard. Kaz goes Chansey, and Chuva has basically nowhere to go. This is a weird team, or at least it looks like. So he risks Explosion. Kaz stays in. Explosion will not knock out Chansey. It goes to 1%. Tauros Revenge kills. Critical hit on both sides. Kaz pulls back, goes Starmie, Chuva uses Hyper Beam. Tauros is Thunder Waved. Also, we don't know what Pokemon is the last one for Chuva. Meanwhile, Tauros Paraslams Starmie. And if Chuva has Zapdos, it's going to be very dangerous. Then sacrifices Tauros. So turn 27, Exeggutor against the Snorlax. I think Kaz wants to go Exeggutor here and explode. He stays in with Snorlax instead, which makes him more vulnerable to Zapdos. Finally goes Exeggutor. Psychic is going to put Chuva's Exeggutor in Hyper Beam range. Kaz goes for Explosion instead. Chuva stays in, it doesn't go Alakazam, so Kaz gets rid of Exeggutor. However, turn 31, Zapdos against Snorlax. Chuva gets a critical hit, and this is where things are looking good for Chuva and bad for Kaz. Zapdos is fresh. Tauros is in Thunderbolt range, 60% roll before factoring critical hits. So good chances, good odds for Zapdos. Starmie is paralyzed, and even with that, Chuva still has a Snorlax. So maybe Kaz wants to save Gengar and hope Snorlax is Monolax. Maybe Tauros first on turn 32. Turn 32, Kaz decides to go for an entirely different play. He goes Gengar, he tries to wake up. Gengar wakes up just a little bit too late, and Chuva even gets agility off. However, that was an early wake, not like Kaz can complain. Chuva wins. Good game. Well played by both. So game 3, Gengar puts Jinx to sleep. Chuva goes for Thunder Wave on Chansey. Tries to attack with Rhydon, misses Rock Slide. So Jinx wakes up, but Chansey is a status absorber right now. So Snorlax comes in, double switch to Alakazam predicting Gengar. So Alakazam is pressuring Chansey. And it's going to cripple Exeggutor as well. However, allowing Kaz to sleep Alakazam is not ideal. Sleep Powder misses, so Jinx is slept. This is definitely better for Chuva. Snorlax against Snorlax. Kaz realizes that Chuva's Snorlax is most likely a Monolax variant. So Rhydon comes in. Earthquake against Gengar. Kaz goes Starmie. And it does that because Exeggutor is already crippled. Rhydon gets the critical hit and the roll. 1 hit KO on Starmie. This is huge. So Tauros, Snorlax comes in. Gengar counters Snorlax again. However, Alakazam is going to switch into Gengar over and over again. So Kaz needs to make progress through Chansey, or at least Exeggutor. Turn 32, Chansey gets a critical hit and the freeze on Snorlax. Chuva doesn't want to expose Alakazam. So on turn 37, Snorlax comes in, Chuva goes Starmie. Finally, Chuva has to go Alakazam. On turn 45, Kaz goes Snorlax. So Chuva sacrifices Frozen Snorlax. Rhydon Revenge kills. Reflect, losing matchup for Chuva, but on turn 50, Rhydon gets another critical hit. However, Chansey is still an obstacle. So Chansey Thunder Waves Alakazam. Executor threatens Explosion, takes out Jinx. Turn 60, Tauros Revenge kills, threatens Hyper Beam on Executor. Chuva predicts Jengar to come in, very nice play, uses Earthquake on Jengar. Kaz uses Hypnosis, wins the speed tie, connects. However, Chuva realizes that this is a Jengar without Thunderbolt, so Starmie comes in. Turn 72, Kaz goes Executor. Chuva uses Seismic Toss. So Kaz goes Tauros. Seismic Toss takes out Rhydon. Turn 74, Chuva makes a double switch. So it's Alakazam against Chansey again. Turn 101, Executor goes down. Jengar will not touch Starmie. Kaz tries Tauros against Alakazam. Doesn't get the random number generator it needs. And from this point, Alakazam and Starmie have control over the game. Turn 110, Alakazam takes Tauros out. Turn 114 is the last chance for Kaz. If Alakazam is fully paralyzed, he can win. It doesn't happen. Alakazam has more PPs, good games. So Chuva got away with something early in this game, but overall he wasn't lucky. In the series, he didn't get much help from luck, so well deserved, good games, well played by both players. Next we have Shiloh subbing in for the Tigers against Amaranth. Game 1, Blizzard Starmie against Sync Chansey. Then Jinx. This is something that Amaranth didn't want. Turn 2, eats Taurus, anti-leading Jinx. Jinx misses, is forced out. Snorlax is at risk. Taurus gets the freeze. Turn 11, nice body slam by Amaranth. Shiloh decides to sacrifice Chansey to sleep. Then Snorlax against Alakazam. Double full paralysis. Turn 19, nice switch to Jinx. Amaranth tries to use rest, is fully paralyzed. Shiloh explodes with Executor trades for Alakazam, and Shiloh has Rhydon against Zapdos. So good game. Early game decided the outcome. Game 2, Starmie uses Blizzard against Executor, gets the freeze. Turn 3, same thing, opposite sides, so fair enough. Shiloh Thunder Waves Chansey, Amaranth Thunder Waves Snorlax, and Amaranth has Reflect. So he lands Thunder Wave on Starmie as well. Psychic Starmie forces Chansey out. Chansey and Snorlax meet again at turn 19. Chansey doesn't FP, so some more stalling. Turn 33. Gengar comes into Snorlax, uses Hypnosis. Nice play by Shiloh. I think Amaranth also realized that Snorlax is not going to help a lot in this game. So Amaranth tries to bait Explosion. Shiloh doesn't click the button. But at the second attempt, Shiloh does. Amaranth goes Frozen Executor. Nice play. So Starmie against the Snorlax. Paraslam, Shiloh goes Zapdos. Amaranth has Rhydon. Damage on Taurus. Snorlax wakes up. Good game. Also counter. Turn 48, Shiloh tries a double switch, Amaranth clicks explosion, catches Taurus. Good game. Lots of switches, finally substitute, and that's it. Game 3, Jinx against Jinx, Amaranth wins the speed tie. However, Jinx wakes up as Taurus comes in. Very lucky. So, same sequence, opposite sides. Shiloh goes Taurus, Amaranth goes Snorlax. Shiloh uses Earthquake scouting counter, Chansey into Body Slam. Okay, so Amaranth goes Chansey. Sing on Chansey misses. Shiloh gets Thunder Wave on Chansey, and finally Amaranth uses Sing, connects on Jinx. Also Thunder Wave on Shiloh's Snorlax. So Shiloh is using unstatused Chansey to counter Amaranth's Snorlax. But finally, a critical hit, and Chansey goes down. So Shiloh has to expose Starmie, gets Thunder Waved. They trade Thunder Wave. Shiloh pulls back, so it looks like this is not Thunderbolt Starmie for Shiloh. So Snorlax against Starmie. Turn 37 could have been a Hyper Beam. Finally, Snorlax switches out at 45%. Amaranth reveals Thunderbolt. So this Starmie is very dangerous. And at turn 52, Amaranth pulls back. Chansey comes in on rest. Uses Thunder Wave so he can go Snorlax. Starmie against Starmie. Turn 66, critical hit surf on Snorlax. Then Snorlax against Snorlax. Amaranth cannot switch Starmie directly into Snorlax. He decides to force Rest instead before going Starmie. Turns out Amaranth now wants to PP stall Snorlax. So Starmie against Starmie again. Finally on turn 87, Amaranth gets the critical hit on Snorlax. Snorlax goes down. Turn 89, nice substitute by Shiloh. Amaranth sacrifices Chansey, Tauros revenge kills. Turn 92, Shiloh goes Starmie, nice Earthquake by Amaranth. He doesn't get the crit, goes Rhydon. Amaranth doesn't use Substitute, Shiloh sacrifices Jinx. Amaranth goes Starmie, so Shiloh goes Rhydon. Starmie doesn't FP, Rhydon is down to 1%. Amaranth will sacrifice Rhydon and revenge kill. So finally Tauros Ditto, but Amaranth has more material. Turn 105, Shiloh gets critical hit Hyper Beam on Snorlax. However, Starmie is going to be a problem. Thunderbolt on Starmie. 108. He wants to revenge kill with Tauros, however Shiloh has rest. So Amaranth goes Starmie. Surf, 1-hit KO. Thunderwave on Tauros, good games. So mirror match, but eventually it was decided by Thunderbolt Starmie. Solid plays by Amaranth. Last series, SERPI against Nicole. This is a great way to end week 4. So Nicole is Jinx, SERPI has Jengar. Nicole goes Starmie into Hypnosis. This is not the ideal start. This is a sign that Nicole has just one sleeper, which is Jinx. However, if you have Jinx, you want to sacrifice it to sleep. Chansey Thunderwaves Jengar, so Nicole is trying to get rid of Jengar and land Lovely Kiss on something else. If SERPI goes Chansey, this plan fails immediately. So turn 5, Rhydon switches into Explosion, very nice. Tauros revenge kills, critical hit on Snorlax. But this is self-destruct Snorlax, so Tauros goes down to 3%. Nicole revenge kills. However, Nicole doesn't go Jinx. Tries to spam Ice Beam. So Thunderwave on Snorlax. Rhydon comes in. So the bad part of this opening is that Nicole is now weak to Snorlax. Starmie forces Rhydon out, Chansey comes in, so SERPI can go Snorlax. Rhydon is paraslammed. However, Nicole knows that Serpi has Monolax and uses Rest with Rhydon. On turn 32, Jinx comes in and threatens Lovely Kiss. Very nice, Chansey is put to sleep. Turn 36, Serpi makes a double switch, catches Chansey. So Rhydon comes in again, it's paraslammed again. Substitute, Serpi uses Self-Destruct. Self-Destruct does not KO yourself when you hit the Substitute. Rhydon uses Rest, Serpi goes Executor. So Jinx is fishing for a freeze, and also Chansey is spamming Ice Beam. Turn 50 Executor stun spores Jinx, and it looks like Serpi needs Executor to make progress in this game. Meanwhile, Serpi is also trying to burn some sleep turns with Chansey. Starmie takes one for the team. So turn 58 we see some more Snorlax against Rhydon action. Both Pokemon lose PPs. Nicole is fishing for critical hits, and Nicole is not being lucky in this game. She spammed some Ice Beams, used some Earthquakes with Rhydon, didn't get Freeze, critical hit, but she still has an advantage. Turn 89, Serpi goes Executor. Goes Chansey into Jinx and then makes a double switch, so he can keep Tauros under control. So turn 93 is very important turn in this game. Like, I think Nicole can use a Body Slam. She goes Rhydon instead, Serpi goes Executor. Jinx comes in, it's in danger. Two special props, so Nicole has to go Starmie, and on turn 98 Serpi gets the critical hit, knocks out Starmie, and now he can put Jinx to sleep. So this Executor is going to be a problem. It's going to threaten Chansey. However, on turn 102, by some miracle, Nicole somehow predicts Explosion. So Rhydon again. Serpi goes Starmie. Nicole stays in, turn 105. Maybe Nicole is a little bit scared of going Chansey, it's low on HP. So Thunder Wave on Starmie, but Snorlax is now a problem. Nicole goes for Thunder Wave. I don't know whether I would use Thunder Wave or Ice Beam. Chancy goes down. Well-timed rest by Serpi. Turn 122. Tauros beats Snorlax, but it cannot beat Starmie, so good game, very well played by both. Eventually RNG decided this game. Like, it wasn't glaring, but in a battle like this, not getting that freeze, not getting that critical hit, or actually getting it makes all the difference. Game 2, Serpi has Jengar against Jinx, Hypnosis, then Explosion on Executor. Tauros Revenge kills, Nicole doesn't switch. So this was basically a 2-for-1. Also because it looks like Nicole doesn't have a backup sleeper. So Thunder Wave on Snorlax. Snorlax uses Self-Destruct, so Serpi wants to finish this thing as soon as possible. Then Serpi goes Starmie, which looks very good here. No chance for Nicole. Nicole leaves Jinx out, Serpi goes Tauros. Tauros puts Snorlax in Hyper Beam range, so Nicole sacrifices Jinx. Serpi goes Starmie, forces Snorlax to use Self-Destruct. Turn 15 he goes Tauros on Self-Destruct. Then turn 16 it's Executor against Zapdos. Zapdos can be very dangerous here, but it needs some luck. Executor explodes. Serpi has Zapdos as well, so Zapdos and Starmie are going to beat Tauros. Good games. Very aggressive game by Serpi, nicely done. Very well executed plan. He didn't need to make any astonishing plays. So Chancellor's team wins. Epic series, I cannot pick between this one and Sceptross against Felix. I think Serpi was the most impressive player of the week. Like these two games, I have nothing to say about his decisions, making things look ordinary as possible. So last undefeated player Nicole picks up the first loss, and this ends the week. Good games and more importantly, good show. Thanks for watching and see you the next week.